Hey y'all, welcome back. This series is going to be called Neglect. Just one word, simply neglect. August, maybe two words, August neglect. Oh my goodness, I have not given the amount of attention that I should have to a lot of things. So let me walk around and give you a back garden update. There still are a few pretty things back here, but when I say we struggle in August here in Zone 8A, Dallas, Texas, we struggle. And let me also start by saying thank you guys for returning. And if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Stick around for a while. And don't forget to subscribe for upcoming projects. I'm going to start this off and talking about these giant elephant ears. I wish sometimes the camera could do things justice just to show how large some things are or how beautiful some things are. You can always pick up the ugly, that's not a problem. But I wanted to start by saying, watch your water pressure when you're shooting the water hose. And that is why, duh. Yeah, I just had one of those moments where I'm rushing. I come out, during the day. I have a irrigation system set up as far as underground sprinklers, but they don't get everything, obviously. So you have to use your water hose, or if you're lucky and smarter than me, you have drip running. I bought all the stuff to get drip installed for this season, and I still didn't get it done. And now I'm paying the price for it. So here we go. Let's look at how I am west facing. So my backyard is getting sun coming from that direction, and it's hitting these elephant ears. And I'm leaving that one big ugly one there for right now because we have triple digits for another 8 days or so. We're going on at least 3 weeks or more. And the reason I'm leaving it there because it's protecting the ones behind it. It's ugly, but it's serving a purpose also. These have been watered. Those are starting to flop back there because they're just so huge. If I can get in here, it's massive. That's one bulb that was planted last season that came back. So oftentimes they are listed as annuals, and but they do come back. My elephant ears come back every single year, and most of them have lasted for at least 4 years or so. But yeah, it's worth a chance, even if it says annuals. And some people don't like buying annuals because you think, oh, I have to start all over again. They're typically 99-cent bulbs. Even if you pay $3 for it, tell me that's not worth $3. Yeah, you can clean that up just by snipping that one off. I'm just being August lazy right now. Um, the last time I think I was back here and showed you guys some things, maybe it's been a couple of videos, is when I had the video where I tree formed my sunshine ligustrum. And honestly, I have not gone back to do much of anything to it. I'm going to drop down here for a second. And the reason for that, twofold, not because it's just so hot, and I've been working on a side house project, but also because of a wasp infestation right now. It's pretty significant. I'll show you guys here in a moment. But you can see on two of the ligustrums, there are some tiny little leaves coming in, starting to form. So what does that mean? That means that if you're going to tree form your ligustrums, or, depending on what the shrub is and how fast growing it is, you may need to do a little bit more maintenance more frequently than you want to. Um, this was done maybe a month ago, so I do have some new growth. And I want to say, oh, that's simple. You just go in and snip it off. It depends on how many other things you have to snip off. So I haven't gotten to that, like I said, because it's so hot and because of the wasp. Um, Let me back up a little bit. On this side, here are a few. They are not growing as fast. For whatever reason, those two on the end, they are the largest and they grow the fastest. Let me go in the middle. So if I can get down this side, I never finished. You can see all the little twigs and branches down there at the bottom. I just never cleaned up compared to that side over there. It's something I won't do probably until the fall, or it just cools off some. And I don't want to trim on my shrubs with it being, over 100 degrees every day anyway. Now, the shrubs on this end, like I said, they grow a lot faster and a lot taller. They were, 8 feet plus tall when I started this project, and I took them down quite a bit. So here's a section here where you see the browning and where it looks like I just brutalized it. It was actually more dark than that. Wait, hold on. I mean, he's like 8 inches from my head. I am so sick of wasp right now. But I chopped this down. I knew I was going to go down to the branches and lose some foliage. That was the only way I could resize it. But you can see the tiny little leaves. It's already branching back out. It's already growing back out. So I wasn't worried about that. Those are teeny tiny little leaves. So even if you cut down some, it will grow back. Here's a better example. These are so tiny. I don't know if you can even see that. Very tiny, but they will grow. Okay, so let me back up because the wisteria is a bit out of control right now. So before anybody starts to attack me about it's invasive, it will take over, it will kill your roof, I'm never going to let this climb my roof. I do come through and trim it up. And not only that, this is a species that is not considered invasive. It does grow vigorously. And this is, I think, the second year that it was planted 2 seasons ago. And it was this tall last year, but now it's making its way over the arch, which it didn't do last year. So I'll come through and I'll cut those shoots that are growing and getting really, really long and get rid of those, because what's going to happen is the weight of it is going to bring this arch down. So I do have an idea on what I'm planning on doing with this arch. I'm going to cement those legs in the ground, which they were not cemented before. All right, so I'm getting close to wasp zone here in a moment, guys. It's pretty bad. So on this wisteria, same exact one, I planted it this year. This arch, I believe, is about, I can't remember. I want to say it's at least 7 feet tall, maybe. So when I planted it this in March, it was 18 inches tall here at the bottom. It was way down, and it's already in one season over the top. So if you want a really fast growing vine, this Amethyst Falls wisteria is a really great one. It does not bloom all year long. However, let's see if I can, the sun may be too much right now. There's a little tiny bloom right there. But in the spring, you get a mass amount of blooms, and then it reblooms again in the late spring, early spring and late spring. And I see a couple coming in now for the summer. So I can't remember if it bloomed in the fall the last time. I just saw these little bitty ones coming in. I will say they're not as prolific. They're not as substantial this late in the season when they bloom as they are when it's the spring. But you can see what it looks like underneath the trellis as well. Those are pretty cool branches, though. I really love how they just naturally twist around. Okay. All right. So my new hot mess zone, I have cleaned up the crepe myrtles probably twice this season. And the suckers are coming back. I did not use sucker punch on these, and I should have. The branches are flopping because, let's make sure a wasp doesn't fly out of there, because my sprinkler system hits them sometime and they just kind of flop over a bit. The begonias and they're doing pretty good, but they do get burned. So look, let me back up. So begonias, if you look at that leaf there, how burnt it is. This is from water sitting on these leaves mixed with the hot sun. It just burns them up. So I run my sprinklers at 5 a.m. early in the morning, but sometimes you still may have some water left over. I was talking to a horticulturist at this local nursery, and never water these during the day, of course, where you get the water on the leaves. Like a lot of plants, they prefer to be watered from the bottom, from the root. And so that's why I'm getting a lot of burnt up foliage on these. So I come through and I try to pick that off, the waxy leaf, And I'm just keeping things alive at this point, trying to anyway. So this crepe myrtle came in last. And what I mean by came in, they do bloom at different times based on the colors, I notice. Like the white ones come in first for me. And they're starting to rebloom a little bit up there, you can see. Let me see if I can get a little closer. They're starting to rebloom some because they had just kind of stopped, which is a good sign. And it means we're getting closer to fall when they do that in my garden. The pink ones we'll look at again in here in a moment, but they came in last. And this year the red ones came in second, I think. It's just interesting how it has that continual delivery of beauty in your garden. You know, you start out with one color and you get another color a few weeks later, and it just continues on. And the red ones also seem to last a little bit longer. The pollinators love them. There are a lot of bees in this one right now, in fact. And the wasps do get in there from time to time. I don't think they're so much attracted to those blooms. They're just like finding these pockets that they hide in. And for example, in my Turk's cap, you can't see them, but I promise you there are probably about 50 in there. If I took a water hose right now and shot it into the Turk's cap, you will just see a gazillion wasps fly out. And so this tree, there are several in the tree. There's one down there on that coleus. And I say one, that's one that I can see. They hide inside of all the shrubs. This is the first year this has ever happened to me. I have never seen a wasp attack or infestation like this. It's so annoying. And I have to come out here. I have to do what I have to do to check on things. The bees don't bother me. There's a bumblebee right now that is really loving the salvia, the mystic spires blue. They're all over that every day. So that doesn't bother me so much. They seem to be, I see them on the terse cap a little bit. And they go to the zinnias. This is a repeat zinnia from last year. These are the profusion zinnias that came back. Very happy to see those. I will say in the second season of their return, they don't have that really dark pink definition that they had last year. This was more of a pink zinnia. Maybe it will change when some of the heat stress comes off of it. I bought a ton of seeds of profusion that I had planned on planting in this bed all the way up and down, and I never did it. So I will do that next year. Look at this little volunteer coleus that just popped up in the ground. Um, it's interesting. I love when I just see things that I like that pop up. So I have a couple of sun begonias here that I've just left because I make sure they get the right amount of water from this system I have set up, or rigged, I should say. That's really a water hose that is connected to just a regular soaker hose, because I never put in my poly to come down here and connect to my drip system that I want so bad. Here in this side also is some more mystic. You can't hardly see it. I can't even get in there and cut some of that stuff back right now. Things are just kind of growing together because of all the wasp. The rock rose, they don't seem to get in the rock rose, which is interesting. I do see some bees around the flowers a little bit, but I don't see a ton of wasp in that. The wasps seem to love the Turk's cap. They are seriously in that. Now, I'm not saying that to discourage you from going out to buy a Turk's cap. This is highly unusual. I have never had this happen before. I've had Turk's cap in my garden, oh gosh, at least 8+ years or so. It's been a while. So there are a lot of things that don't look good because I have not been back here as much as I should. And there are some areas like over there that do not get any drip, much drip at all. Um, I had a bunch of begonias in the ground. Most of them are gone. And I will say the Carex is doing quite well. All of this is coming out. I'm over it. This is truly the new hot mess zone. All of this is coming out. This used to be really beautiful, full of roses, and they just look horrible. I have, let's see, what kind of roses do I have back here? I just went blank. So I'll put it on the screen. Look, this is OH. It's not that I don't know them. I just forget, y'all. That's what happens. And so Broadway, I have Broadway roses, which is this. It's lost pretty much everything. It looks terrible, terrible, terrible. And um, I'm going to take all these out, get rid of everything. This is the only section of my garden that I have landscape fabric in. And I really feel like things are struggling back here because of that. Because the root systems are not allowed to really spread out and be happy and do what they need to do. Is just not happy. So I'm pulling that fabric out. I can't stand landscape fabric unless I have to use it, maybe like in a rock garden or something. But it just, I know it serves a purpose. And for me, it's just, there we go. Hello, another wasp. Um, it does serve a purpose, but I don't like it personally. It doesn't break down and give back to the soil. Over time, you see it sticking up out of the ground, and you have to go in and remove it after so many years anyway and clean it up. So I'd rather have cardboard down with some really nice soil and have it just break down where I can take a shovel in there at any time and go in and, plant something new. But I have to go through a serious process now just to replant over in that area. All right, so unfinished projects. I put these boards down back in the spring and I never put the nails in them. I have some 8 to 12-inch nails that I was supposed to drive through the top so that they stay in place. They are still in place. They're just not as straight as they could be. And I was also supposed to stain them, and I never did that. Hey, I try not to beat myself up because I used to. I want it all done and I want it all now. You just can't do it that way. Everything takes time. So, I came through, this is cardboard. This was all grass at one point. It was struggling grass, but I built this bed in the spring and I realized I've done a lot this year. I mean, I've built extended rooms, side gardens, new beds. I put down stone this year. I did a ton of work. So I have to not beat myself up so much because it just takes time for things to develop. And I'm also learning right now where my mistakes are on certain plants. Some things I push the envelope on. I know it may not do well, and I'll put it there anyway. A good example would be this purple fountain grass in a pot. Well, you can grow purple fountain grass in a pot. It loves pots. But look where I have it. Duh. I knew I was putting it under a tree. But I did get a lot of sun here last year. This year, I didn't get a lot of sun here. This tree is much more mature and it's fuller this year than it was last year. So I know now that I need to move that pot. When you put something in, it does not need to be permanent. And so if it works, great. If it doesn't, great. I'm taking a risk even with this jasmine that I planted. It's the star jasmine. And so it does get sun and it is growing, but is it growing as best as that it could? No, it's not. I'm going to leave it there and see how things goes. It's an evergreen. These trees are deciduous. It will start to slow down, obviously, and not grow as much as we reach the winter months and start to become a little dormant, but we'll see what happens. And if I need to dig it up and move it, that's what I'll do. I will say that I'm very happy with the wintergreen shrubs that I put in. Now, those are happy in sun or shade. They look extremely healthy. I planted all of these this year, and I think I planted them about 3.5, 4 feet apart. And that was intentional because I couldn't decide. They grow pretty large. They can grow, 4 feet across, 5 feet across, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to make them in a more pyramidic shape. Did I say that word right, y'all? Pyramidical. Okay, shaped like a pyramid. How about that? Because it is what it is. Okay. Yes, I did go to school, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to grow them that way or have them actually meet together. So in the meantime, they're going to be small, of course, and I'm waiting for them to grow. So I will just put in some type of annuals back here in the back until that happens. Now, this year I chose to put in white vinca. I've had really decent success with Venka because it can take sun and part sun, a little bit of shade, and for me, it's happier. Is one of the few things that are not burnt up right now because it is getting a bit of shade. So they're not as full maybe as they could be because there's not a drip under them, but they are doing decent. I planted them in like four groups of fours, So there was a volunteer tree. That's a crepe myrtle we got to pull. I have a ton of those popping up, so I'll be pulling some of those. I'm pulling out and getting rid of. Some of them I'm going to pot up and give them away or find some other places to plant, maybe in some neighbors' houses. Let me stop for a second because last spring or last August, I lost an entire row of what was it? Arborvitaes, because in my mind they were going to grow up and give me a little bit of privacy. So that didn't work. They're not happy here in Zone 8A. It's just too hot for them. And so I came back with some red tip photinias. And these I am planning to tree form because they will grow 20 feet tall. And I will let them grow up the fence and keep all the branches from the fence down off of it. And then let it branch out and start the canopy right at the level of the fence itself. So that's the plan for those. They seem to be pretty happy and they look very healthy. And I'm happy. I'm not going to cut any branches yet. I'm waiting for them to put on all the growth that they can over the next year or so. This one has really taken off. It was closer to the ground. Right now, I would say, I'm backing up because of this big wasp. I would say that it comes right above, right to my chest almost. So I'm 5'4". That's not bad in 1 year. Some of them are taking out faster than others, which tells me that some of them get the right amount of water or sun better than others. Let me go back. Speaking of things that I did this year, this was a dead grass area that I just started putting in stones in. If you've been following me for a while, you saw when I put this little landing here and built this little area as another seating area, another garden room. So I've done quite a bit and I'm tired. So I'm hanging in there though. Um, but I have to say, just because I'm tired doesn't mean I'm not enjoying it still. In fact, I can't wait for it to cool off so I can get out here and get re-energized and do even more. I'm so excited about things to come. Hey, so check out where I put these planters in. Now, the reason I did that because I put very, very small Japanese boxwoods in. Obviously, that's going to take a while to grow. Now, that's a Japanese boxwood on this side. Some of them are much taller. I have never trimmed any of them. I'm letting them just grow and do its own thing at the moment. And so I put just some what I call placeholders, something to fill in the dead space. So I put these pots because I already had the pots. And what could I grow in them that would allow me to neglect them? Because it's on the backside of my dog's area. And so what I put back here is um, the canna lily. These are all transplanted from another area. I also didn't want to spend money. So these are purple heart transplanted from another area. So I have five of those pots there. There are some things that did not survive over the last, I had some annuals. I'm going to show you the ugly and keep it 100, keep it real with y'all. So those are some annuals that have been neglected. Now the sprinkler system does hit really well back here, but chances are this board is a little too high and maybe it's obstructing the water from landing here, or maybe these are just not happy here. So I will never plant them again there. Um, Not that I won't plant them again at all, just won't plant them there. Okay, so I got to show my fail. Not happy, not happy at all. A really big fail, y'all. I put in St. Augustine grass, sod, in this area for Nola, and it looks horrible. It is, I don't want to say it's going, some grass right now, most people, to be honest, a lot of people in my neighborhood, grass look like this in the front because it's dormant and it will green up again as soon as that rain comes through and these temperatures drop. I am praying that that will be the case with my St. Aug. But I think not for all locations because, as you can see there, the grass is just gone. It's died back. There are still a few green pieces in there. And if those can stay alive, then there's a chance that this will refill back in. Otherwise, I'll have to plug it and put some pieces in here. Here's what I think happened. Before I trimmed back the trees, it was way too much shade. Now, St. Aug loves shade. It prefers shade, in fact, but it still needs some sun. It was full on shade right here. And my sprinklers are very powerful in this area. In fact, this area gets more water than anywhere else. And because I have them, reaching all the way to the top, and I had them redone, and there's some really great sprinkler heads that I had put in. But I just think this area here is getting way too much water. It was overwatered and not enough sun. So I think it killed off some of the grass. That is my guess. I have not done anything to try to remedy this just yet, but I am. I'm going to try to save it because that's a lot of money. And I hate to see this all go away. Now, I will say this, if I'm unable to save it, there was one viewer that said, go with the turf, do the artificial grass. And I did like your suggestion and I wanted it, but I was trying to save money. And, but if this dies off, I will do artificial grass for Nola's area. So, but I'm gonna try to save it because it's not that I just want it pretty back here. It also serves the purpose of when it rains, she comes out to use the potty and I end up getting mud in my house if there's no grass. So we got to work on that. Okay. Oh, let me stop here and look through that view. Hey, Nola, come here, baby. Come here. Come on. Come on. Get up. Get up. Come on. Oh, lady. Hi, sweetie. How you doing? Yes. Yes, it's been a while since Nola's been in a video with me. And she's been hanging strong out here. She does not like being outdoors. She wants to be inside. She's getting old. But oh gosh, I love that view with the sun beaming on those pink crepe myrtles. When I talk about a wild moment, this is extremely wild because I thought those trees were dead. They put off new branches and I need to tie them up so that they are growing straight up and not flopping over. But it's so pretty. I really don't care right now. When it cools off, I'll take care of that. But for the moment, it is what it is. Now, some of my hostas are looking really, really bad. The ones that are in the ground. You fight either some worms or, something is eating them up. Grub worms, things like that. Snails, I don't know. I do treat for those things, and they actually did better this year than they did last year in this area. Ooh, come on, Wasp. And this is an interesting process on a crepe myrtle tree. You see how it's exfoliating, it's shedding. I honestly love this process because you end up with that beautiful white bark when it's all done. So I cleaned some of that up, but it's a lot of it. And plus, I just can't get up in there good right now because we got friends. But yeah, anyway, so I said all that to say about the hosta because when you plant hostas in pots and you raise them off the ground, you don't have that issue. Your hostas do much better when they're in pot and planters and when they're raised up off the ground as well. I haven't had too much of an issue with my hostas on the ground that are in the gravel. They've actually been quite happy over there. Under the tree is a whole other story because there's just so much soil and goop down there. And I don't know, just a lot going on. Let me go back this way. Now, I'm standing in the shade at the moment. I wanted to start this before the sun really got up pretty good, but it looks, decent. I am okay with it for an August garden. And it's so hot, I can't really even walk and do this. It's morning. It's probably about 90 degrees right now, and I think it is about 8 a.m. maybe. And so I'm gonna walk over here, but also I stopped because the sun is just not gonna make for a really great video. It's better when it's, you know, sun is down. My magnolias are very, very happy in these pots. So if you ever want to grow trees in pots, you know, I've grown plenty of trees in pots before. It's always what trees in pots will be happy. And I got to tell you, these are doing wonderful. They do call for full sun, but I would say mine get morning sun for about 3 hours, a little bit of afternoon sun, and then that's it. Quite frankly, they're much happier for me with it being so hot. So they look amazing, and they're doing pretty good. I also have some juniper, blue point junipers, three of them in pots. And I did have someone at the nursery say, I don't advise you to do that. But I had grown them in pots in the front of my house for several years, no issue. And I think it also makes a difference on what pot. So I have some really heavy frost free. I don't know if I can call them that, but just, you know, pots that can make it through freezes really well. We'll see how this one does because I don't know how these are going to do. They're kind of thin. We'll see. All right, so I'm going to cut back this way. Sorry if you hear the loud air conditioner. No, looks like, let me in the house, please. All right, so I'm going to wrap up on this side over here. Not a gorgeous side, but I did tree farm this side. So in that last video, I hadn't done it yet. I'll try to put up a before picture of this area here. And you can see I took off a lot at the bottom. Let me go down. I'm so sorry, the sun. That may be better. So I did take off a lot, but I see that it too is already growing back. And I do have a lot of purple heart under there. So let me get a little closer out of the sun. How about that? I'm sorry, guys. So you can see where I did start the process, but I'll finish up later, but it is starting to kind of grow back. And here's the thing, I realize now, if I don't like that and just leave it alone, they fill out again. So I don't think you can mess up and go wrong with trying to tree form a ligustrum. Let's see, Blue Mystic Spires, Salvia is doing okay in pots. I wanted to watch that and see how they would do because they're doing amazing in the ground. And I do have a couple in pots that seem to be doing quite well. The one on the left, which is protected a little bit by the tree, is much happier than the one on the right. This one is a little more thinner and requires a little bit more attention. So I say that to say because the tag is going to tell you these want full sun. Yes, that's true. They can handle full sun, but it doesn't hurt to give them a little protection if you're in extreme hot areas. My canna lilies are looking a little ragged right now. Grasshoppers love canna lily. So this is from grasshoppers. I catch them. I had a big one earlier that's just over here having a good old feast. And so I don't typically deadhead mine. Sometimes I'll come through and pull off some of the ugly, but it's very delicate. I wasn't planning on pulling the entire thing off, which is why I really don't do it much. And I just kind of toss them down and that's it. Sometimes it's rare that I would come through and actually cut this. I just pull that off. So clean it up a little bit. And I have things that are growing and leaning. For example, some of these zinnias are so tall, they're starting to lean and use this chair, which I just find to be an adorable. Just, that's so pretty. I love how they're just laying on the chair. And here's an example too of how the root system works with the canna lily. I didn't plant that here outside of the bed. That means that that tubular root has just worked its way on over and now it's popping up a new canna right here. So I'll have to dig that out. Otherwise, it's going to continue on to do that. A lot of things are looking really woolly over here. Here's something I want to leave you with. Purslane is an interesting plant. It's a beautiful plant. Puts off all the beautiful little flowers. This one is a repeat. Self-seeded, and it comes back. One thing I've noticed about them, look at all that on the ground. I didn't plant that. Purslane, right? Or is it? So I decided I'll leave it. This happened about 2 years ago. It did this. So I thought, okay, can you imagine if it has all these yellow or pink or purple or orange flowers just popping up all throughout the ground? The problem is when I left it, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And it got between all the rocks and stones, but it never flowered. So then it just looks like weeds and it looks very unkept. So it's starting to do it again. That only happens because of my purslane. Never had that issue before. And when I'm not growing purslane, that doesn't occur. And I love it. I want to put it in some areas, like in my front rock garden between me and my neighbor, but I don't want it to take over anything. So if you've had that issue or noticed that or have any experience with purslane, let me know. Drop me a comment and give me some tips on it, because it's a plant I don't want to give up on. But, oh, you ready to go in? It's time to wrap this up. I hear you, girl. Okay, Nola said we gotta go. It's time. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe. I appreciate your support. Check back. We'll have more coming. Nola, say peace out. No, you don't want to?